I'll go ahead and get going, and hopefully our other two commissioners will join shortly. So welcome to the August 11th Nantucket Conservation Commission meeting. This meeting is being held entirely remotely, with all participants participating via Zoom. The public may comment via YouTube, and you can see on the town's website how to join to comment. I ask that anybody wishing to speak, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the chair. If you have public comment, please state your name and any relationship you might have to a project. And also make sure that your device is muted when you're not speaking, so that you don't interfere with the meeting recording. Also make sure not to screen share your computer, as anything you screen share might be captured by the recording. So we will begin tonight's meeting under public meeting, public comment on items not being heard this evening. And it looks like we have Burton Balkind with a public comment. Go ahead, Burton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We sent Jeff an email, and I just wanted to state it in public comment that we, the Nantucket Coastal Conservancy, would respectfully request the commission schedule an agenda item as soon as possible to provide for an update in the status of the soft installations constructed on the public beach below the bluff in Sconset.
Thank you, Burton. That letter was circulated around, so hopefully all the commissioners have read it at this point. Jeff, does staff have any information right now about the status of the soft installation?
I think we have a little bit we could probably pull together, but I feel like if we put it as an agenda item for the next meeting, we can get everyone that information in advance.
Okay.
I think that should be fine.
Perfect. Thank you, Burton, for bringing this to our attention. So I'll just check YouTube and see if we have any other public comment.
Ashley, excuse me.
Yes.
It's Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors. Could I just ask, who do we have? Who are the board members sitting right now?
So we have Mark Beal, myself, Ian Golding, Mike Miserelli, and Joe Plandowski.
Okay.
So Seth will not be here this evening, and I don't think we've heard from Linda.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm just checking my YouTube screen and it was giving me something went wrong. So I just want to check the chat. It does not appear that we have any public comment on YouTube. So the following items are continued this evening. Under notices of intent, we have the Brant Point Club LLC at 6 and 8 North Beach Street and 4 Dolphin Court, continued until September 8th. We have Town of Nantucket at 98, 100, and 104 Washington Street, continued until August 25th. Under amended orders of conditions, we have Phillips Trustee at 19 East Tristram Ave, continued until August 25th. And I believe that is all for our continuances. So we will begin tonight's meeting under notices of intent. We have ARAC LLC at 14 Gosnold Road, represented by David Haynes.
Good evening, all. This hearing, or this notice of intent application for a swimming pool at 14 Gosnold Road. And all the pool is, we've had 2 hearings already. The pool is greater than 50, no structures within 50, maintaining a 25, actually the 25 vegetative buffer, and actually expanding it out to 50, close to 50 in some places. We continued it because we were waiting for Natural Heritage to respond, which they have, in a favorable no-take letter. And also we tweaked the plan a little bit from last time to get all work outside of 25. We've changed the buffer a little bit. The vegetated strip along the edge of the driveway that we talked about, that's been pulled outside of 25. So all work is outside of 25. All structures are outside of 50. The 2-foot groundwater separation is met for the retaining wall and the pool construction. And we're not asking for any waivers. And I believe that's everything we need for this.
Thank you, David. Sorry, my computer's a little slow. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Looks like no. So we'll open it up for public comment. And Jeff, I don't know if you can drop the screen share. Perfect. It does not appear that we have any public comment. Jeff, do we have everything we would need to close? Oh, Ian?
Yeah, thank you, Ashley. So I just wondered, David, what the proposed path is in the 25 to 50. Did you tell us and I've already forgotten?
It's just a gravel path. It's pervious. It's not. There are a couple of step stones that would be similar to a dry laid soap path, but that's it.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
you. Any other questions or comments? Jeff, do we have everything we would need to close this one? David, would you like to close?
Yes, please.
Is there a motion to close? A motion made by Mark. Is there a second?
Sure.
Seconded by Ian. So by roll vote, Beal.
Aye.
Arisman, aye. Golding.
Aye.
Mizzarelli.
Aye.
Plendowski.
Aye.
That carries unanimously. Thank you, David. Jeff?
Linda is trying to get on, so she should be on momentarily. She's just having some difficulties like everybody else.
Okay, and I just realized we don't have Terry on. Is she gonna watch this and take the minutes?
Yeah, that's why we record it.
Okay.
So we'll be good.
All right, perfect.
Terry is out. She is COVID, so she is at home.
Well, I hope she's mending. All right, that moves us on to 13 Commercial Street LLC at 13 Commercial Wharf, represented by Paul Santos.
Thank you, Ashley. Could I just ask, is Ann, are you on this call?
I don't see an Ann.
Okay. Could I respectfully ask them to be moved either to next or to the end of the public hearing agenda until I can get Ann on here?
Yeah, we can bump you down to the bottom of the list.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, so that moves us on to the Sachem Trust at 8 Sachem Road, represented by Brian Madden.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Brian Madden from LEC Environmental, representing the applicant. The proposed project before you involves some proposed site improvements, including a new garage, shed, pool, patio decking, driveway reconfiguration, and some landscaping updates. And I'll just kind of wait for Jeff to pull up the plan.
Sorry about that, Brian. Sorry for the delay. I'm just trying to get everybody on.
Yep, no
Good
worries.
meeting here. Gotta herd the cats, you know?
So this is an existing developed property. The bordering vegetated wetland system occupies the westerly portion of the property, and the site development is concentrated on the east side. Thank you. Thanks. So basically some minor driveway reconfiguration between the 25 and 50 foot. We are maintaining the same level of disturbance within the 25 to 50%, 20 to 50 foot buffer zone. We are proposing to shift the driveway over at the entrance off of Sachem and provide some restoration activities, a planting area that's cross-hatched that actually extends into the 25-foot buffer zone. So we are proposing to restore that area and replant it with native species. And I had also submitted some photographs that represent somewhat of a low point of the roadway where there's some runoff that occurs from the east to the west, and it erodes down into the wetland area. I think that the photograph that I had submitted illustrates that relatively well. So we're proposing restore and stabilize that area. But coming in, there's some general reconfiguration of the driveway. The shed and new garage are located outside the 50-foot buffer zone. The shed's going to be on sonotubes. The garage is going to be on slab. The proposed pool that occurs in the southeastern portion of the site, the 100-foot buffer zone cuts through the middle of it. We have designed that to maintain that 2-foot separation to high groundwater, which has been documented at elevation 15.7. So the bottom of the pool will be at least 17.7. Again, there's no work within the 50-foot buffer zone. Structurally speaking, we are proposing to relocate some septic tanks as shown on the site plan. And we are proposing the waiver for that restoration of the 25-foot buffer zone. But we feel that the project will be an improvement over existing conditions. And with that, I'll turn it over to questions.
Thank you, Brian. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Mark, and then Ian, I'll go to you.
Yes, thank you, Ashley. Brian, tell me, how extensive is that gate project? I've seen some rather impressive gates on Nantucket now, and I want to make sure that's not a structure you're building there.
Sorry, Mark, could you clarify the gate you're referring to?
Well, one of your arrows says entry gate.
Oh, okay.
Those can be extensive. Wood structures, concrete bounds, concrete posts, electric gates, keypad. I mean, it can be a big deal, and I hope it's not, but yet tell me what's going to be there.
Yeah, my understanding, just a simple swinging wood gate that you see. There would be some support posts on either side, but there isn't any plans, I don't believe, for like large stone pillars or anything to that effect. So I think the intent would to be somewhat low key, blending in with the landscape.
Thank you.
Ian, I had seen your hand up.
No, that's more or less answered my question too. Thank you.
Okay. Brian, I know I had a question, and then Mike, I'll go to you. So currently between the 25 and 50, what % is altered? Because it looks like more than 50%.
Yeah, so we had in the narrative had mentioned that under existing conditions, it's 62% alteration. And we are proposing to maintain that 62, but have some trade-off. So it's a little bit of expanding the vegetated buffer, particularly within that 25-foot buffer zone at the front, with some trade-offs a little bit in the back for parking turnaround area, but not increasing any further than existing conditions.
Okay. I'd obviously like to see that shifting more towards 50%. Do you know when this development took place?
Oh, I think there was an order of conditions previously. I could kind of pull it up to see when that was, but the wetland boundary was a lot further down gradient.
Okay.
And if anyone's familiar with this area, that there's a culvert that flows under Sachem to the west, which is the kind of a restricted culvert for what's been called Shallot Pond to the south, that over time has flooded over the roadway and flows through the land bank property through a ditch that extends around the perimeter of that property. I had filed well, we received an order of conditions back in, I think, 2008 for a pretty significant culvert improvement project there that was never implemented. But it is somewhat of a restricted area. So the wetland boundary has expanded in recent years, and that entire perimeter of the wetland boundary is all bush honeysuckle. And it's very, very dense down there.
Okay. I guess with the increase in development on this site, I would love your client to consider a more extensive, I guess, restoration of that buffer or the 25 to 50.
Yeah. So some of the limitations there, since there's no work on the main dwelling, and that driveway, if you look at the plan, is like right up against the front doorstep of that. And I think where there was a need for some turning area up by the garage. So there may be some minimal opportunities to get that closer to 50. And if that's the desire of the commission, we could take a closer look at that.
Thank you. I know I would appreciate that. So Mike had his hand up, and then Ian, I'll go to you.
Brian, I didn't see I'm looking at the landscape plan, and is that hedge existing on the driveway, or is that something that's going to get planted? There's like a hedge. I'm looking at Ahern LLC's landscape design plan.
Yeah, are you talking along?
Like it runs
Sachem.
along the 25. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a row of ornamental trees along the west side of the driveway. Is that where you're talking?
Well, I see on Jeff, are you able to put up the landscape plan?
Thank you for bringing this up, Mike, because I noticed that as well.
So coming in, if you follow from the antique granite apron, there's shrubs down the driveway. I don't know if that's new, or I don't see the planting plan attached.
Yeah, so there currently is a row of trees, ornamental trees along that stretch. So it'd basically be replacing in kind that landscaping edge.
But I mean, on her plan, it's not showing as on her plan, that's showing as a hedge, which I just want to know what the material is.
I think the intent was for privet, but I can confirm that.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Mike. And I think Brian, especially given that this is in that kind of area that maybe needs to be restored, we need a native species there. Ian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So that, Brian, that would explain why the porch in the existing dwelling is now inside the 50, because the delineation has been changed.
Exactly. Yeah. I looked back at the older plan of record for that and it was outside the 50 when it got previously approved. But yeah, with the new delineation that I did, it's now within the 50.
So I strongly echo Ashley's comment about the amount of modification in the 25 to 50, because we've been discussing in our new regulations to drop it down from 50 to 25%. So if we had changed our regulations, then this would be a different discussion. So I would urge your client to reconsider some of that, please.
Point taken.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, looks like no, so we'll open this up for public comment.
Yes, hi, this is Ken Wise. I don't have my camera working at the moment, but I'm in a butter directly north of this property. And I sent a letter to Jeff yesterday with a concern that we have. There is an existing restriction on the deed that there cannot be a habitable guest house or habitable area outside of the main area built on the property. And that is from a prior restriction from 1990. If you look at page 38, the landscape plan we were just looking at, you'll see that where the old garage was located from page 40, it now indicates that there is a guest house in existing location. And so that is my concern, because that's appears to be in violation of that restriction if that is indeed a guest house.
Thank you, Mr. Wise, for bringing this up to us.
Mhm.
I know, we really only look at wetland applicable regulations, but this is now kind of a few meetings in a row. We've had similar issues like this. So Jeff, is this something we could put in our order that, our order doesn't permit, any kind of development beyond what's allowed in deeds or neighborhood associations?
So,
Jeff, go ahead, and Linda.
Yeah, I can answer that. So we don't have any real ability to regulate private deed restrictions, right? So when those are in, there's designees as part of those. Our review is solely to the Wetlands Protection Act and to the town bylaw. And if there are other restrictions, whether they be, private restrictions or zoning or other permits that are required, that's the burden of the applicant. Our order does call out as standard terms that they have to have all other permits before they start the project. Obviously, if there's a private restriction or something that's in place, that's their job to resolve and is not, I hate to say it this way, but it's not within our purview. So there could be 100 restrictions on this. There's nothing that we're really involved in.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So Mr. Wise, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I think, going to the planning board with this application and kind of following it through some of the other permits might be a better avenue to get your questions answered.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for your participation.
Yes, thanks.
Linda, I see your hand up.
Just want to reiterate that this has come up at other boards, that neither the Concom, the ZBA, the HDC, or the planning board has any jurisdiction whatsoever over private deed restrictions unless through those other entities, they are given the right of enforcement. I looked at this deed restriction. I followed it back to particularly 1998 when Wises were involved with the sale of this property. There is nothing in this deed restriction, and it's nothing at the planning board that gives anybody the right to enforce or put anything to do with a private deed restriction into any formal document from the town. This has come up too many times over the years in different venues.
Okay.
Can I follow up on that question then? So is there no Nantucket body, basically, you're saying, Linda, that has enforceability of clear deed restrictions?
No, unless the planning board during the hearing process, or the ZBA or the Concom or the HDC is given specific, and it's usually restricted to the planning board, given right to enforce a deed restriction that's part of a subdivision or a secondary dwelling or access, that kind of thing. Otherwise, a private deed restriction only lasts for 30 years on top of it, not in perpetuity. So you're coming up in another 5 years on an expiration date on this. But there's absolutely nothing that the town can do to enforce any private deed restriction unless expressly listed in a decision from basically the planning board. So there's nothing anybody else can do on your behalf. And put it that way, in this particular case, on your behalf.
Thank you, Linda. Jeff, is that what you were gonna say essentially?
Me?
Yeah, I had seen your hand up.
Yes.
Okay. Ian?
I would counsel Mr. Wise to get a second opinion.
Thank you, Ian. That it does seem like a major loophole in things that are written into deeds.
Yeah, and a civil action is usually the way those things are enforced, because he is the one who put the deed restriction on. Mr. Wise put the deed restriction on, and he would be the one that would have the right to enforce it per the deed language that's in that particular deed. But he should probably have a conversation with his attorney, but there's no entity in town that can enforce it at this point.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this hearing? Looks like no at this point. So Brian, are you and your client willing to look at the plan with a little bit more kind of detail to see if you can move out of that 25 to 50?
Yeah, we can take a look at it, see if we can bring that closer to the 50%.
Okay.
I mean, there's absolutely needs to be some level of work in there for the existing driveway footprint. And, where we're doing some modifications, I think, at the front where we're restoring in the 25 and then that washout area will help matters. But we could take a look at maybe shifting the driveway a little bit more. I think it was initially laid out to be somewhat be parallel right across from Hallowell entrance. But we can take a closer look at some of that and then incorporate the native planting along that westerly edge. And we could easily condition that as well to confirm that, it wouldn't be privet or something else.
Okay. Well, thank you, Brian. So would you like to continue for 2 weeks until August 25th?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this will continue until August 25th.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that moves us on to Luxury Brands Incorporated at 100 Low Beach Road, represented by Brian Madden.
Thanks so much. Brian Madden from LEC Environmental Consultants. So the proposed project involves some structural renovations to the existing main dwelling on the subject parcel. There are no footprint changes or no changes to the foundation itself. This is all vertical within the existing footprint. It's basically just changing some of the roof lines. The project has been approved by HDC recently, and portions of that do occur within the 50-foot buffer zone to the coastal bank and the coastal dune. Because we're not doing any modifications to the footprint, we did, as kind of a conservative measure, did request a waiver if that was indeed required. But the vertical renovations themselves won't have any adverse effect on the resource areas. All work will be contained within the existing developed conditions. defined by erosion control barriers. Temporary disturbed areas will be restored in kind. While nominal, we are proposing to remove 74 square feet of decking at the front entrance that's within the 50-foot buffer zone and replace it with a dry laid stone patio entrance in a different location. That is on the north side, away from the resource area, but it does result in a minimal structural reduction in the 50-foot buffer zone. But again, no footprint changes. The foundation's remaining the same. It's just some vertical renovations that are highlighted on these HTC drawings.
Thank you, Brian.
And I understand it may be difficult to kind of wrap your head around the architectural stuff, but it's just basically some expansions on the second story, basically, and changing some of the roof line pitches. And again, that has all been approved by HCC.
Yeah,
Yep, Ian, go ahead.
yeah, thanks. Well, it's increasing the mass in an area that, I happen to own property back in the day across from there, more or less. And I find it very distressing, but, we have this scenic view as in the eye of the beholder. So I really don't feel that I can make a strong enough argument under the circumstances. But I think it's very unfortunate that it's steadily getting larger and larger and, within its existing footprint, because they know that we're not going to grant anything else. So
yeah,
that's my 2 cents.
Ian, I hear you loud and clear. And, wetland scenic views was something that I was taking a look at as well. And, I guess as we look from the roadway itself, from any public streets or beaches, I mean, the existing vegetation between Low Beach Road and the house is relatively robust. And under existing conditions, you can see the top of the roof line, but you can't see the ocean or the expansive dune system. And then likewise from the coastal dune itself, I'm gonna do a quick line measurement, but the house itself is like over 800 feet away from the beach area, given the expansive dune system. But
well, I take your point, Brian, in turn. It is what it is.
Yeah, and this isn't like the full footprint going up 2 stories. It's a minimal expansion, and on the west side is elevating the pitch of the roof. I don't know exactly how tall, but it's not a second story. It's just elevating slightly the roof line a little bit.
Right.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? I know, Brian, this looks like a tight space. I know we saw work here on a previous order, but is there a construction protocol laid out just to keep vehicles and dumpsters and things out of resource areas? Because there's not a lot of space for you guys.
Yeah, so no vehicles are going to be going around the south side of the dwelling. There's just simply no room. It's a thin strip of lawn before you hit the top of the coastal bank. I would imagine that whatever conditions the commission wants to implement for BMPs just for management of that area during construction, that would certainly be appropriate.
Okay, thank you. So if there are no other questions or comments from commissioners, we'll open this up for public comment. Does not appear that we have any public comment. So Jeff, do we have everything we would need to close this?
Yes, we do.
Brian, would you like to close?
Yes, please.
Is there a motion to close?
So moved.
Motion made by Linda. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mike. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Golding,
Aye.
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Plendowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
That carries unanimously. And that moves us on to Nantucket Island's Land Bank at 19 Wauwinet Road, represented by Brian Madden.
Thank you very much. Brian Madden from LEC representing the land bank. Rachel is also on the line. So we're proposing some site improvements on this property. This property contains Eat Fire Spring. I don't know if folks have been out to this property in the past, but it's a very unique site. And I'll just kind of walk through the site improvements as the plan gets pulled up. So the main reason why this application is being filed now, if you remember, I was in here last year at some point for the existing barn to be relocated onto the NISDA property to the north, to the historic location of that barn. That's east of the easterly silo that you see in the north top part of the screen. That work is slated to occur, or scheduled to occur in October. So really the need is to piggyback off of that and make sure any structural demo removal work is done concurrently. And so what is being proposed to be removed is this existing storage building, this long skinny building that's located east of the pool. The pool is being removed. The patio surrounding the pool is being removed. The retaining wall that defines on the north side of the pool is being removed. There's a chain link fence around the pool that's being removed. A small little gazebo. And then as part of the move of this barn, which is called the heifer barn, the existing deck and a small portion of the structure, which was believed to be like an add-on, it's kind of an extension of the kitchen, needs to be demoed during the work activity, and that's crosshatched, you see on the site plan, to enable the move to occur. And so that's going to be replaced in kind after the move occurs. So some other site improvements occurring out here, right in front of the barn off of Wauwinet Road, there's a concrete parking area. That's going to be converted to a pervious surface. So we're removing the concrete and expanding that further to the north. That's all outside the 50-foot buffer zone. All the privet that's in the front part of this property is all being removed. There's a sitting area currently abutting Eat Fire Spring Road that historically has been there. That is being proposed to be upgraded. However, there are further details and design that are required there that we will be providing the commission through a future amendment request. But we did want to indicate at this point in time, like the timber walls that define the area and the stone patio area, brick patio, is going to be rehabbed in place. And I submitted some photographs of what that currently looks like. There's a existing footbridge over Eat Fire Spring on the east side of the property, northeast side of the property, that links up with the north field location. Excellent. Yeah, so that's the patio sitting area with the timber walls. And then there's the footbridge over Eat Fire Spring Road. So that footbridge is being proposed to be upgraded, but we're going to come back with a more detail on what that bridge design looks like But basically the intent is to span Eat Fire. You can see right now it kind of like terminates pretty close to the edge of the water. So we want to increase that width to completely span the stream channel. And then the path continues off to the north field. There's a diverging path with some wooden board planks laid down over the stream. We're proposing to remove those board planks and then abandon that secondary spur and allow it to naturally revegetate. So there's only that one connection point to the north. And let's see. And I think that reviews all the work improvements right now. Portions of this do occur within the 25-foot buffer zone, including the removing of the landscape privet. So we have requested a waiver for that. There's going to be further landscaping designs that will be forthcoming here. But again, the major impetus for this application is to piggyback on all the structural demo removal work that's occurring here. And once all those landscaping details are finalized, an amendment request will be filed.
Thank you, Brian. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Mike?
Thank you. Brian, just on building on your comment of the details of the landscaping and Ashley's comment from the low beach road that we just looked at, it seems like it's all net improvements and it's going to be nice. The only thing I'm just wondering is it seems like there's so much going on that property from a wetlands point of view. Is like how will they intend to do some of that work might be helpful when they come back with the landscape details as far as what pathways and stuff they're going to take and what areas are going to be disturbed. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the comment. Yeah, absolutely. The future landscaping plans will get into that level of detail because ultimately the end goal is to make Eat Fire Spring more publicly accessible and along that north side of the property, the northwest side of the property. So that's still in progress and hopefully will be coming together shortly.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Looks like no at this point, so we'll open it up for public comment. Does not appear that we have any public comment at this point. So Jeff, do we have everything we would need to close?
Yes, you do.
Brian, would you like to close?
Yes, please.
Is there a motion to close? Motion made by Linda. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Joe. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, aye. Golding,
Aye.
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian. And that moves us on to Murphy Foundlier at 8 Massachusetts Ave. Mike?
I'm going to recuse myself from this one. I've worked for this client in the past year. I don't have any knowledge of working at 8 Mass Ave. It was on a different property, but the possibility may exist. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And David Haynes, take it over.
Hey, thanks. Thank you, Mike, for that. And yes, they are connected. What we're proposing here is this is a vacant piece of land. It's only in the 100-year flood, land subject to coastal storm flowage. There are salt marshes offsite to the north and to the west. but the buffer zones do not come onto the property. What is being proposed is the construction of a garage slash boathouse in the highest portion of the land, and with a gravel driveway entrance. It will be basically at grade, little minor regrading just to make it fit in there, but nothing more than a foot or so. No fill will be brought in. And the floor of the garage boathouse will be either gravel or will be a slab and have floor drains, 4 to 6 inch floor drains, 8 feet on center, and discharging down to a gravel substrate beneath the slab, so that it will allow infiltration of any floodwater that would occur. The building will be designed to meet flood standards, and also to flood during major flood events. This flood elevation is elevation 9, and according to the FEMA floodplain maps in that area, the area where we're proposing the boathouse is outside of that. However, the survey data on the site puts the entire site below that elevation, so we are considering it to be within land subject to coastal storm flowage. The rest of the work on the property involves brush hogging it and seeding it with a conservation wildlife mix, and then to seasonally mow it a couple of times a year, maybe to keep the woody vegetation from coming back in, and establishing a meadow in that area. No fertilizers, no herbicides, no irrigation. The vegetation that's out there is a very dense vegetation, a combination. There's bayberry, some scrub oak and pitch pine saplings, Rosa rugosa, very thick areas, some looks like Russian olive. But so they want to just open it up and make it into a meadow. And that basically is the extent of the project. It will not affect it. No waivers are required. It's not within natural heritage. It's not within the buffer zone, so there's no requirement that anything be within 2 feet of the water table, outside of 2 feet of the water table. However, any foundation under there will be well above the water table. No dewatering, no waivers. And minimizing soil disturbance and reestablishing a vegetative community. And so with that, any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, David. Ian, I see your hand up.
You do. Thank you, Ashley. And David, so it's nowhere near the water. So how is it going to be a boathouse?
Well, it's a place to store a boat, not a boathouse on the water. I didn't mean to imply that, but he wants a place to put his boat. So let's call it a garage. If that, I'm not going for a water dependent use. I'm not asking for that, but I'm just describing.
All right. Well, thank you. I was slightly puzzled. So thank
He
you.
wants to build it like the one next door, which is the guy has a boat in it. And actually, if you look at their house, which is across the street, their garage has a boat trailer tongue sticking out through the door. So he wants to have a place to put it where he doesn't have to cut a hole in the door.
Got you. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Mark?
Thank you, Ashley. Maybe Linda can help me with this question. I have in my ancient memory, my planning board days, and I don't want to tread on their toes, but can you build a structure in a residential neighborhood that's not a standalone non-residential structure?
Yes, maybe 5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, the bylaw was changed to allow ancillary structures in certain situations on lots by themselves. and for this,
Thank-
contemplate this type of thing.
That's good. Thank you.
You.
I'm glad because I couldn't.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? If not, we'll open it up for public comment. It does not appear that we have any public comment at this point. Jeff, do we have everything we would need to close?
Yes, you do.
Mark? Oh,
I move to close.
okay, motion made to close. Ian, are you seconding?
Yep.
I
Okay,
am indeed.
okay, so by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Golding,
Aye.
Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries with Commissioner Mazzarelli recused. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Stay safe.
So we're gonna go back in the agenda a little bit to 13 Commercial Street LLC at 13 Commercial Wharf. And this is represented by Paul Santos.
Okay, thank you, Ashley, and I appreciate you moving me on here. I believe Ann is on the call. She is the property owner. So Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors, representing the applicant 13 Commercial Street LLC. The subject property is located on the south side of Commercial Wharf. It is approximately 440 square feet, consisting of a primary dwelling on a fully developed residential lot. The structure, as you see it today, is a single-family dwelling on an open pile foundation. The structure was essentially reconstructed in 2008. I believe it was completed around 2009, in which time it was basically a complete renovation, new pile foundation was put in. And at the time, it was compliant with the flood zone regulations that existed prior to the 2014 regulations or FEMA flood mapping that we are now dealing with. The property itself is bounded on the east by two land bank properties, Petrol Landing, and then a property recently acquired, which is Mickey Rowland's former office building. That building is slated to be relocated. So the property to the east will eventually be two open land bank properties, which I assume will eventually have public access and so forth. To the east or to the west is the Harborview units that extend all the way down to Washington Street. The site itself is located completely within land subject to coastal storm flowage. You also have the Nantucket Harbor itself, which is to the south, basically is the southern property line of this property, the mean high water line is. And you do have a coastal beach, which essentially extends up and partially underneath the existing building as it exists today. The current elevation of the existing building is first floor elevation is at approximately at elevation 8. The existing roadway of Commercial Street or Commercial Wharf is around 3.5. The site itself has a parking area which is accessed off of Commercial Street, and the building fronts on Commercial Street and has access via a single entranceway along the Commercial Street streetscape. The site is not located in an area which is mapped under NHESP, either priority habitat or estimated habitat. And what we are proposing here is to, I'll go through this, I guess, in two stages. The first would be there is an existing covered entry porch with the stairway that acts as access to the existing building. It is completely covered, has a roof line over it, and they would be looking to infill that component of the existing structure. There is also work happening on the second floor or the second story of the building that again would occur within the existing footprint with no lateral expansion of the existing dwelling. The second component would be an addition on the front of the dwelling, which would extend towards Commercial Street, and then ultimately revise the entryway into the building and location to accommodate an expansion of the footprint, and then also the revised access once the building is elevated in order to come into compliance with the current flood zone regulations. If I can actually track back here and kind of give you an idea of where the building is sitting with regard to the resource areas. The building as it sits today is completely within the 50-foot no build. And if you look at the plans, you can see the edge of the coastal beach, which tracks underneath the existing building. We showed the 25-foot setback, which is within the existing building. And then the 50-foot setback extends up to Commercial Street in that particular area. We are currently looking at our different options with regard to FEMA, because the difference here is right now this is shown as within a velocity zone. The difference between the velocity zone and the AE zone is fairly significant with regard to what the ultimate building height of the structure will be. When we're talking about a velocity zone, and I kind of did a check on the harbor area, and I don't think we've really seen anything yet within the harbor that's come into compliance with the current velocity zone standards. The work that's been done on Halbert Avenue, some of the historic work on some of the structures in the Easy Street area had exemptions with regard to the heights that they're built at. But the difference between the velocity zone and the AE zone is as follows. If you are in an AE zone, which is our typical, say, Halbert Avenue area, buildings along that line, you're basically under the 9th edition of the building code requested to build at your first floor is to be the flood zone elevation +1. When you're in a velocity zone, your elevation of your structure needs to be flood zone +2, but that's to the lowest structural member. So there's a significant difference when you're in the velocity zone as opposed to the AE zone. And in this case, it's almost approximately 5-foot difference between this building being in the velocity zone and this building being in the AE zone. What we're doing here is looking at some options with regard to a letter of map amendment or a letter of map revision through FEMA to determine whether or not the building would qualify under the velocity zone or whether we could potentially file for it under the AE zone. So we're under the assumption right now that we're filing under the velocity zone because that's currently how it is mapped. And that's why when you look at the front addition of the building, you'll see the stairways are fairly different than what is currently out there, as the building needs to be, even though it's on the existing piling system, to come into the current flood zone regulations, it does have to be elevated a fair amount based on the velocity zone standards. The application itself obviously would require waivers, as even the work within the existing structure or the second story work, while it's still within the footprint of the existing building, does occur within the 50-foot no build. So again, if I could break it into, I guess, 3 separate line items. First would be the enclosure of the existing covered porch area, which is already existing structure under your definition. The second story component. And then the third option would be, the third item is the actual expansion of the structure towards Commercial Street that would occur within an area that's currently a parking area currently developed in the front of the existing dwelling. The building expansion work has been reviewed by the HDC, has been issued a certificate of appropriateness, I believe, and can speak more directly to that. We have been working with Nantucket Architecture Group, or Ann has worked with Nantucket Architecture Group on the HDC filings with regard to the building expansion.
And
Happy,
if I may interrupt, just to clear that up, yes, we received unanimous
And
approval.
sorry, is that Ann speaking? Just state your name for the record.
Yes, Ann De Russo, and yes, we received approval from HDC. They really wanted us to build a front entrance because they're moving away from these side entrances. So that's part of the reason for this like bump out, so that we have a proper front entrance, front door.
Okay.
Thank you. So I guess I don't know what you feel might be appropriate, Ashley, whether we look at the enclosure, the second floor, and then maybe we talk about the addition as a, I think it may be better to take each one of these separately and kind of get the board's feedback with regard what the proposal is.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fine. I realize this is the first time we're hearing this as a new, application essentially. I personally feel the addition is a major sticking point. It's a no build zone for us. The structure is within a resource area. So although, I'm all for permitting this to get flood compliant, I would not be able to approve the addition in the front in the no build.
If I can just please address that concern, and I understand wanting to not overbuild this area, but given that we are next to Harborview cottages that are even further to, like, I'll say towards Commercial Street than we are, and the neighboring property, which is further, as well as the rest of the boat basin. If you're here and you look at the streetscape and you see the rest of the street, it actually lines up. It will not look like it is, it's too much. And this is obviously a really well-developed area, so much so that I even went to a different board petitioning to remove the 2 parking spots in front of my home, which I thought were shouldn't be, especially if we're saying this is a conservation area in which you shouldn't build. But we have 2 parking spots in front of our house for a 2-way road that essentially turns our road into a 1-way road where people ride up on the sidewalks. I have 4 children. They're running out on the streets. And so given the area and that we're across from Stop and Shop, and I've heard about, some great plans that may be going in. I'm not sure, either parks, shopping, mixed use. And then the boat basin on one side and the Harborview cottages on the other, that this 8-foot bump out that we're doing in order to then appease as well a different board, the HDC, which really wants to see a better street view of a front door, a really pretty staircase, which now that we have to elevate houses,
I don't
I
want
would
to
just implore you
interrupt.
to consider those things.
Yep, we are here to consider the Wetlands Protection Act and our local bylaw. So the look of the streetscape, is not something we really consider. When this was open previously, however, I know it was asked by commissioners, I might have been one, but I can't remember, to actually pick your structure up, move it further out of the coastal beach and closer to the street, but it still wouldn't give you room for the addition that you're talking about. as this resource area is very dynamic. Again, you have coastal beach, you have a velocity zone. It's important to be as far away from those resource areas as possible. So that's really what we're looking at.
But
you know-
I'm also, I'm raising a house in Palm Beach. I've just raised that house to, I'm actually one of the first in Palm Beach to raise a home there. And so I am, on board with coastal resiliency. I went to the demonstration and I guess over at the, by the wharf where you had the pictures of what this should look like. And we are happy to raise the home and to do all of that. And it just makes it look a lot better when you have this 8-foot bump out. Like, it's not really that you're adding much to the house other than this front door and these things. And given that this is an area, especially particularly close to the street,
Yeah,
where you
so
have
I don't want to
activity.
I don't want to interrupt, but I do want to allow commissioners to comment on this.
Apologize. I'm
I
sorry.
do, I want to try and move our focus away from the street aesthetics and focus really on the wetland resource areas and how to avoid any impacts there. Ian, I see your hand up, and then Linda, I see you.
You do, Madam Chair. Thank you. And I'm in complete agreement with you that it goes against our regulations to have any new construction between the 25 and 50. And there's a very good reason for that. And that's why we keep it to that. And I see no mitigating circumstances here. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ian. Linda?
Just want to clarify some stuff in my head. Paul, you're going to go on the assumption that you're in the velocity. Through you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes, that's what we have to do right now. Yes.
Okay, and then, because as you know, unless you do a certain amount of work, you don't have to bring it up to the flood standard. Or what you're proposing to do, it's going to trigger you coming up. It's a 1950s structure. Is that going to trigger you coming up, or are you voluntarily coming up?
No, this structure was completely renovated back in 2009, so we have no exemption for the historic component of it.
Okay.
And I think we still have to review that, but I think at this point we're triggering the threshold for potentially having to bring it up to compliance.
Now-
That's tied to we're in the process of seeing what our options are with regard to that.
Now, between the 25 and the 50, is the only thing you're doing between the 25 and the 50 is coming up out of the floodplain? Or is there something else, just to clarify, between the 25 and the 50?
No, the addition that Ashley and Ian were making reference is within the 25 and the 50. And also, I mean, quite honestly, the enclosure of the existing entryway and the second floor work, albeit within the existing footprint, does occur within that zone too. I mean, the entire structure is within the 50.
Yeah, I just trying to clarify between what you want to do on the commercial wharf side versus what's going on between the 25 and the 50. I mean, on the
Yeah.
one side as opposed to the water side.
Yeah, that's why we picked it to be closest to the street. And then also because we were trying to get HDC's comments about accommodating the stairs and a front entrance.
One more question to figure out how I want to phrase this. Anything you're doing between the 25 and the 50 is within the building envelope itself and not any expansion as to ground cover. Is that
No.
correct?
No, there is an addition on the front of this existing structure.
Right, on the commercial wharf side, but I'm looking still back to the water side.
On the water side, no, it's not. And in fact, all on the water side, closest to the beach, we're not changing that roof line. It's not until you get midway to the property and then forward towards Commercial Street.
Okay, but my point is there's no additional ground cover on the water side.
No, or
Okay.
on the sides,
Okay,
closest to the water. So we kept everything out to the front, right in front of Commercial Street, in line with neighboring properties. And just again, so that we could have a design of, we have to have the underside of this house be at, and Paul can correct me, but I believe it's 13 NAVD. I mean, that's some significant stairs that we have to put in, and to make that work, I appreciate the committee's concerns about building in this area, but when you are attaching doorways and stairways to an existing structure in order for us to be resilient, I think that should be considered, because this is not a situation where we are, being extravagant with additions.
all right, Paul, so if you did nothing to expand the volume of the structure, except come up out of the floodplain voluntarily, whether it's insurance driven or just safety driven, that would be a different issue.
Linda, is that a
I
question?
think
for
we'd
Paul?
still have to come back, because we'd have to build stairs up to there.
Well, that's
and then
what I'm
we'd be
saying, 'cause
building- Yeah, we'd
that's
be
what I'm saying.
building
If-
something new, unless
you,
you
Madam
started
Chair,
tearing
to-
down the
Guys,
structure.
I just want to make sure we're not talking over each other,
Right.
so that our minutes
Right.
taker can actually take minutes.
I'm just through you, Madam Chair, to Paul again. If all we did was come up out of the ground to get it out of the floodplain, whether it's velocity or the AE zone, we would still have to address the issue of access. You can't have a ladder. You're going to have stairs added to it. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, that's correct. I've still got to get, once the building comes up, whether it's 2 feet, 3 feet, or 4 feet, I've still got to address getting access into the building.
So we'd be having this discussion whether or not we had any additions on it.
Yes, so Linda, we have before had flood zone projects come in, and we have approved, an increase in structure to allow for like extra stairs to get in. So that's definitely happened with us before. And I
And I
think that,
believe what's a hardship in this property is that this.
I know, so I need to ask that you please don't interrupt our minutes taker. I think we do understand the constraints of this property. The issue really is that in our regulations, we would not allow building in this location. And not only do we have a proposal for an addition in an area that's no build, we also don't have really mitigation that's coming in to say, well, this is how we're offsetting it, because you are very constrained. So from a commissioner's perspective, approving the addition is a very difficult thing, and it goes again against our regulations. So that's something we really need to look at. You probably would have a project that's easier to approve if it was strictly raising the house to come into flood compliance. Ian, I see your hand up.
Actually, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to ask before anyone else, if we could maybe have a chance for all the commissioners to talk. So
Yes.
if I just have Ann, let's get input from everyone here.
Perfect.
So thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Paul. And so the bottom line is there's no reason why you can't extend the stairs that exist there as you raise the building. And I very much feel, both for precedent and because of our regulations, that there is no proposed addition. So that you just extend the stairs on the side from where the existing stairs are. And that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Do any other commissioners care to share their perspective or have any questions or comments? Mark?
I would support the comments you made, Ashley, and Ian. Building in the 25 to 50 is a no-go from my standpoint. There's no mitigation. Extending the staircase will be a reasonable request, but the extension or the bump is a no-go from my standpoint. We haven't discussed the enclosing the porch yet, and that's a different conversation, but for the bump, my vote will be, no, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. All right, it doesn't look like anybody else is going to weigh in at this point. I know enclosing the porch, you mean on the water side, Mark?
I thought they were going to do it on the commercial street side, no?
Okay,
Correct, Ashley. The enclosure of the porch is on the commercial street side. And then we've also got the roof line and some of the work that's staying within the existing footprint on the second story. I mean, I think what I'm hearing is that the addition is the main issue here with at least 3 of the members.
yes, I would agree with that. I think from my perspective, work within the current structural area would be permissible. As long as there's no structural increase like within the beach area, kind of that footprint. But on the commercial street side, enclosing a porch wouldn't be a problem for me. So if Linda?
I think that's what I was trying to iterate with the expansions within the building envelope itself versus expansion in the 25 to 50 as far as ground cover is concerned. Enclosing the porch, I think I agree with you, Ashley. That's what I was trying to sort of separate the building within the envelope already that's of the structure versus adding to something.
Yes. No, I agree. I think that's the sticking point. So if there are no other commissioners' comments or questions, I'll open it up for public comment. Just in case we have public here. Does not appear that we have public comment on YouTube. So Paul and Anne, what would you guys like to do? Would you like to kind of regroup and come up with another plan, maybe without the addition for us?
Yeah, I mean, I'd personally continue for one
do
meeting.
that.
But I'll defer to Ann. But Ann, I personally would like to continue until the next meeting. And then that way we can address the issue of access and, that we can further discuss that addition.
And just so I can have a little guidance, because obviously every time you go to architects and ask them to draw plans, it gets expensive. And we've already gone through 2 sets of plans and comments from HTC, and I'm now learning that I probably should have come to this board before going through HTC process. But what I'm hearing, I believe, is that the committee would be supportive of the structure itself. And then outside of that, I just need to find a creative way to make a front door that HTC will be happy, and then stairs from there that this committee could support, because it is an issue of access. And then obviously stairs would include, you have to have a landing of sorts to reach the door, right? Like to the point made earlier about it can't be a ladder.
Yes, so essentially
Like a balcony in the air to get into the front door and stairs from there.
right. So the architect you're working with should know that we want the most minimal increase in structural area possible with the new design, that allows you to lift the house to be flood compliant, do your structural work within the current footprint, and then allow you access into the house. Ian?
Yes, but the applicant currently has access into the house from the side. There's nothing stopping them from increasing those stairs. And, anything else will add to construction between our 25 and 50 foot setback outside of the original ground cover. And so I think you're the applicant. So Paul, I hope you advise your applicant accordingly. Thank you.
Yes, and sorry if I misspoke. When I said access, I just meant getting in the door, not necessarily changing for HDC approval, but allowing stairs to get in. So at this point, would you guys like to continue until August 25th, which is our next meeting?
Yes, I would.
Okay. So this will continue until August 25th.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you. Thank you. So that moves us on in the meeting to minor modifications. We have Archer at 41 Monomoy Road. And I believe we have Ryan Maxwell on for this.
Thank you. So again, for the record, Ryan Maxwell with Bracken Engineering. This project was issued an order of conditions back in May of this year. If you could pull up the plan and show you what we're doing.
I got it for you, Ryan.
Okay. Okay, so on the plan in front of you, the previously approved structure locations are shown in red. We basically just took everything and we shifted it to the right, right side of the plan view, 9 feet. The limit of clearing inside the 50-foot buffer is staying the same, and all the structures are going to remain outside of the 50-foot buffer as well. And that's kind of it for this. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ryan. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Looks like no. Jeff, do we have everything we would need to issue the minor mod?
You do.
All right, Ryan, would you like us to issue?
Yes, please.
Is there a motion to issue? Motion made by Linda. Is there a second? Seconded by Mark. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, aye. Golding,
Aye.
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Landowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that moves us on to certificates of compliance. We have first Nantucket Islands Land Bank at 158 Orange Street. And I don't know, Jeff or Rachel, which one of you would like to go through it?
I can go through it. That's fine. I think Rachel may just be listening in. So 158 Orange Street, that's the property that was formerly the Backman property across from Foods. That permit was originally to take up the asphalt driveway, convert that to gravel or to pervious. They did a bunch of plantings. They removed some existing retaining walls that were kind of going down the back way towards the creeks. And then they redid some of that elevated walkway to that dock. And then if you guys remember, in June of this year, we approved a minor mod to include a bench that may or may not have ended up in the 100. But they have completed all of that work. And after our inspections, we have determined that they're in compliance and are recommending that it can be issued.
Thank you, Jeff. Are there any questions or comments for Jeff? And if not, would somebody like to make a motion to issue the cert?
So moved.
Motion made by Linda. It looks like seconded by Mike. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, aye. Golding,
Aye.
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Landowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously and moves us on to Nantucket Islands Land Bank at 63 Matticat Road.
So to cover this one, this is the property that's just south of the animal hospital and kind of surrounds the old Cassidy farm that's there. If you guys remember, we permitted a series of, depending on how you count, like 4 to 5 boardwalks through that area. I will admit I have inspected this many times. My kids like to go there. Boardwalks are really nice and are in place and were constructed in compliance. We recommend that this can be issued as well.
Thank you, Jeff. If there aren't any questions or comments from commissioners, would somebody like to make a motion to issue the cert? Mark, are you making that motion?
Second.
Linda with the second. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Golding,
Aye.
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Plendowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Right, that carries unanimously. And we have Nantucket Islands Land Bank at 16 East Creek Road.
Sure. So this is the property that's kind of behind the island home and next door to 19 East Creek, which we heard many times before the land bank bought it, the house right now. So this was a project where they installed a brick walkway that leads to a little patio and bench for access and kind of a viewing platform from the parking lot that's there. All of that work is completed in compliance, and we recommend that this could be issued as well.
Thank you, Jeff. If there aren't any questions or comments, would somebody like to make a motion to issue the cert? Motion made by Mike. Is there a second? Seconded by Joe. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Golding,
Aye.
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Plendowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Right, that carries unanimously. And that moves us on to Nantucket Islands Land Bank at 70 Washington Street.
So this is an old one. 1473 is from back in 2001. It was originally for the construction and siting of a house that was there. The land bank has taken control of the property and are just trying to close out the old permit, and it's in compliance for what it's worth, and we recommend it could be issued.
Thank you, Jeff. So if there aren't any questions or comments, would somebody like to make a motion to issue the cert?
So moved.
I think Ian got you with his hand, Linda, so I'm going to give Ian the motion and you the second.
Cool.
So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Golding,
Aye.
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Plendowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Right, that carries unanimously. And that moves us on to orders of conditions. So Jeff emailed these out earlier.
So I did make a mistake. I missed it doing, I'll put it up when we get there. I did have one for 100 Low Beach Road, but it missed the email. So I'll post that while it was there.
Okay.
Once we get there.
Get there. All right, so the first order we have in front of us is for 18 Washing Pond Road, the Lehrman Dynasty Trust.
Sorry, I got out of order too.
That's
So this is the one that we closed last time. This was for the replacement of the pre-existing groin. And I got instructions to draft this positive order. So I have some kind of interesting findings and then some conditions that we could discuss a little bit from the minutes. So I'll walk through it really quickly. So there's additional finding number 2, which is the commission finds that the proposed public stairs will be required to maintain an unobstructed access along shore. So in the performance standards description for coastal beach, one of the ways we protect that recreational interest is by providing an unobstructed access along the shore. So that's just to memorialize that specific interest, as it came up a lot during discussion. 3, the commission finds that given historic permits and conditions, the replacement of the groin in kind with no expansion or modification other than the required stairs for public passage qualifies as a pre-existing use. We can talk about that more in a minute. 4, the commission finds that the stairs over the groins are a water-dependent use as they cannot be located outside of the resource area, given their intended uses and purpose. And then it does qualify as a limited coastal project under the state regulations. We didn't really talk about that much during the hearing, but they have a very specific provision that allows for this very activity as a limited project under state regulations. So as far as project conditions go, this is kind of standard for us for groins and bulkhead replacements in resource areas, that fueling needs to take place outside of 50 feet from the resource area. sedimentations to be minimized, and then thinking about this project specifically and how to kind of keep an eye on it a little bit better. I included a requirement for photographs every 2 months of the site, just to document the amount of sand located in the groin system and on either side of the groins. And then I put in a quarterly report documenting the condition of the groins and bulkhead, the location of the resource areas, and the location of mean high water, just to track to be sure that it's functioning as it was represented for that sand coming in and accumulating like it's supposed to, but giving us kind of a regular check-in. And then this 23 should say not accumulate between the groins or adjacent to the groins as shown through the reporting. The applicant shall appear before the commission to discuss potential remedies of the system not functioning as designed. So if it's not working correctly, we have kind of an immediate way to have them come in and talk about why it's not working correctly, and if it needs to be altered or changed, we have that built into the permit. So we're paying more attention than we were before. So I'm definitely just kind of going from the minutes and notes on that, but I'm happy to take any thoughts or suggestions, or if people have questions why things got worded a certain way, I'm happy to deal with those as well.
Thank you, Jeff. Ian, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Jeff. My one question, I suppose, is what would be the advantage of having photographs every 2 months as opposed to having photographs every quarter along with the quarterly report?
I think doing it this way, I think my thought was, I mean, quarterly would be every 3 months. I don't think photographs are hard to get, and you can get a little bit more of a representative sample just to see what's happening. I think doing a report that often, I know it's only 1 month difference, is a lot, but I mean, they'll probably line those up, the quarterly reports with the photos, but I didn't feel like someone walking down to the beach or flying the drone over, taking a couple photographs and emailing them in was too onerous, but I felt like it would really capture the ebb and flow of that system a little bit better.
Well, great. Thank you for explaining that.
Jeff, I feel like this is really a stupid question this late in the game for me, but it doesn't require a waiver because it's water dependent, correct?
For parts of it, yes. So for the stairs, you're looking at a water dependent use, so you don't have the buffer zone, and the bulkheads obviously and the groins are water dependent because they have to be in that resource area. The other provisions, it looked at pretty hard for the requirements for coastal engineering structures, but because it's repair effectively of a pre-existing structure, because you're not trying to build new, and that's what that performance standard is trying to address.
Okay, thank you.
But it is a good question. That is a fair question.
Mike, I see your hand raised.
Thank you, Ashley. Jeff, just so I understand, who does the quarterly report? Like, how do those function?
Sure. So typically, Mike, usually what we see here is it would probably be site design that was doing that. They would just go back out and document the condition. They probably use photographs again for a lot of that. And then as far as location of the resource area goes, they would simply just GPS where the coastal beach was, and then GPS where the high water is, put it on the plan of record that they've already done as kind of a new line, and just submit that. So
and how long do those typically go on for? Sorry, I didn't know.
Sorry, could you say that again?
How long do the quarterly reports flow in? Like, is it like infinite, or there's a period of time that it?
Sure. So with our permits good for 3 years, it's really for that duration of the permit. And if we carry it forward on a certificate of compliance, you can either set a additional finite amount of time. I think the thought is if they're submitting it that much, if you're getting quarterly reports and you get through those 3 years and you're not seeing anything, you may be able to, obviously work with the applicant to say, hey, let's switch it to an annual report and have that go on for another 3 years and then be done. But I think getting more information up front first lets you then reduce that requirement later. And then eventually, you can either get to something where it's ended, or that it's something where it may be once or twice a year to kind of capture that.
Okay, it all sounds reasonable to me. And then just a last question on that, like, who do commissioners review the quarterly reports, or you do that within the office yourself?
So we do get them here, any quarterly reports we get. I know we haven't gotten any for any other projects since you and Joe have been on the board. We just circulate amongst the group, and we just set an agenda item if people have questions under kind of a monitoring reports thing. If it's a larger project, just to not that this project is comparable in scope, but for larger annual reviews like we get for the Geotube project, we have a third-party reviewer that looks at those and provides you guys yet another report to help kind of boil down the other one. If you guys want, staff can do a little write-up on, our thoughts from reports. We're happy to put those together. But it's for the commission's, purpose of reviewing.
Okay, I'm good with it. Just was curious how it worked. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Not that you guys don't have enough reading material for meetings, sometimes giving you a little bit more is always a good time.
No, those are great questions, Mike. Any other questions, comments, amendments to this order? Mark?
Thank you, Ashley. Jeff, in findings 3 and 4, you mentioned stairs. I was trying to encourage the applicant to have the stairs in a different location than on the groin. In your opinion, at mean high water, to mount the stairs, will public feet get wet or will they be dry?
I would say it depends on the day and time. So, I think there will certainly be plenty of opportunity to get on and off those stairs. I think that the stairs really more in question is the easterly set. So that's the set that would be on, as you look at the plan, the right-hand side. I mean, certainly with mean high water, you cycle in and out of that. So if you're at a lower tide, or even if you're on like a neap tide, something where it's a little bit lower, probably not as big a concern. Obviously, if you get, big spring tides, or if water is abnormally high for a number of reasons, you may have opportunity where your feet do get wet. I would certainly never say never, but I think they're making best efforts to provide that in this case.
Ian, I see your hand up.
Well, you do, Madam Chair, and I just want to bring up that in the revised plan, the mean high tide line is the stairs are well below the mean high tide line on the eastern end of the bulkhead. So, but I take Jeff's point.
Well, I think that's
grudgingly.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Ian, and sorry, Madam.
No. Sorry.
I think that's something why I also was really trying to provide a little extra monitoring to see if that's happening more and checking that more, just to see what's going on. Because I mean, keeping in mind, if the structure functions as represented and as groins typically function, there's going to be points of accumulation of sand where that's going to shift a bit too. So I think that's why really keeping an eye on it for especially the first few years is really critical, just to see what's happening.
Ian, go ahead.
Yes, and thank you, Jeff. And it's just occurred to me that perhaps we should specify that the pictures are taken at mean, low, or at low and high tide, that the time is given according to the tide chart, so that we actually know which level of the tide cycle the photographs are taken.
That's a great point, Ian.
Well,
Make it quick.
it came out of Jeff's remark. It was
Good teamwork. Mark, I saw your hand go back up.
Yes, I just want to make sure it's that we're all clear that the stairs provide access to the top of the bulkhead, not just up and over the groin. Is that clear in your eyes, Jeff, on the permit?
Let me make two quick amendments and I think I can address both of those quickly.
I think the way it's drawn on the plan, Mark, the only way you can get across is up and over because there's no stairs down on the western side of the groin and no like stairs up on the eastern, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the western side is pretty easy. The eastern side is our problem area.
Right.
All right, so really quickly, just made a quick amendment. So in the permit overview portion, to try to address that, Mark, I just put, this order permits the replacement of a previously existing licensed groin that was damaged beyond repair from winter storms and the construction of 2 sets of stairs over the groins with passage between the 2 sets of stairs over the bulkhead within coastal beach land containing shellfish and land under the ocean. Waivers are required. And then to that condition 21, I rewrote it a little bit. So it reads the same at the start. So the applicant shall provide photographs every 2 months of the site, documenting the amount of sand located in the groin system and on either side of the groins. The photograph shall include a date and time and indication what portion of the tide cycle the photos were taken.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I
Good
move to
suggestion.
approve as modified.
Second.
Okay, so by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman opposed, Golding,
Did I, may I ask for a point of order?
You
Sure.
can still vote no.
What?
You can still vote no if you want to.
No, I just wondered if I jumped the gun, if Ashley wanted to make any additional comments. I apologize if I jumped the gun,
Nope, you didn't jump the gun at all. I think, as far as giving a positive order, I think this is the best positive order we could do. But I am still opposed to this project.
Oh,
So.
gosh. What a quandary. All right, well, I'm going to give a reluctant aye.
Okay.
So,
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, so that carries with Commissioner Arisman opposed.
Thanks for everyone's work. I know that one was a hard project.
I went back and forth multiple times, but I ended on this hill. So I went a little out of order of our agenda, but in order of our draft orders. So we now have ARAC LLC at 14 Gosnold Road.
All right. So this was the project that we closed tonight. This was a David Haynes project that we had carried over for some revision to the landscape plan. Of kind of our standard set of pool conditions for that 19 through 23, our standard fill condition at 24. We had talked about the no fertilizer or other agriculture chemicals are allowed within the 50-foot buffer zone, which we've been adding. And then we had our normal 50-foot setback, plantings to be native with no cultivars, and then just some photo monitoring of, there's a couple little areas they're going to let regrow naturally just to monitor those, to run through really quickly.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions, comments, amendments? Give everybody a minute. And if not, if somebody wants to make a motion to approve as drafted. Mark? You making that motion? Joe, were you seconding?
Yes.
Okay. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, aye, Golding,
aye.
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
I didn't hear, came in after it was already, so I'm going to abstain.
Okay. So that carries with Commissioner Williams abstaining. And that moves.
I do have one for 100 Low Beach Road, Madam Chair. That's the one that's actually technically next on the agenda.
Okay, do you want to screen share with us, Jeff?
Yeah, it's not crazy. Sorry, this one missed the pack. So this obviously was for the renovation of the existing structure. I had included the condition that all materials to be stored outside the 50-foot setback. But other than that, it seemed like with a renovation in place and just the removal of the shed, I was struggling to come up with anything else, but I tried. There's no landscaping proposed to condition or anything, so didn't include any of those. And the pool was permitted under a different order that has the pool conditions on it, so it's kind of where I was.
I think that's good because the all materials stored outside the 50 should cover any construction.
Yeah.
So,
I have a question.
yep, Ian, go ahead.
So, Jeff, could we be more specific so there's nothing put on the coastal dune or something along those lines? Or do you feel that's not necessary? I'll defer to
Can you,
collective wisdom.
when you said nothing is put, can you clarify that a touch?
Well, so where is the 50-foot setback? I'm looking at the plan. And I'm thinking, well, there's no setback shown on the plan. You have a coastal dune, vegetated wetland. And so basically, I'd like to say on the north of the building. So there's absolutely no possibility of misunderstanding. Because from the vegetated wetland on the west end, it's really the 50-foot. It's sort of, well, all right, I see. All right. Strike that from the record. It's going to have to be on the north side of the building anyway.
Yeah, I think that's impossible.
What?
I think it'd be impossible to put on the other side. It's like right up against it. So,
Any other thoughts on this order?
oh, I do have one more comment. For those who have missed it, just to let you know, I know if people read really carefully, they'll notice that the reference in the bottom, like the waivers, where it used to be like section 2.05 for coastal banks, is the codification that we accepted a while ago and that the select board ratified, took effect 7 days ago. So all of the numbers are now those fancy like section 390-8 and section 390-10. So, 20 years of remembering those numbers has now changed, and it's really kind of a pain because I have to look at them now. It's not fun. So,
Sorry about that, Jeff. Linda, I see your hand popping up.
Nope.
Oh, nope. Just your fingers and then maybe. All right.
Well, I'm sorry, but in looking at the plot plan, Jeff, the 50 is so close to the building in parts of it. I really would rather specify to the north of the building, unless my fellow commissioners just think that I'm becoming too jaded as a commissioner.
I'll vote for that.
What?
I'll vote for that.
So that will still allow them to put the silt fence in, right?
I hope so.
Is that, no,
Yeah.
that would be south of the building.
well, that would still be required. So what if I just change 20 to read? Sorry, I stopped sharing because I don't feel guilty. It said all materials shall be stored outside the 50-foot setback and on the northern side of the building.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Jeff. So, would somebody like to make a motion to approve as amended?
Sure.
So moved.
Motion made by Ian. Linda, I'll give you the second. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, aye, Golding,
Aye.
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Landowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously. And that moves us on to Nantucket Island's Land Bank at 19 Wauwinet Road.
1 second. I'm having a little technical difficulties. Of course, this is the night that we are doing server maintenance for the town.
Oh, that's a constant battle.
And so I am all right. Dealing with like my email just cut out like 10 minutes ago too, because they're rolling all that stuff over. So it is what it is. So the land bank, I think with this, I think it was important, and I know Brian said it pretty clearly, that this isn't like the final time we're gonna see this, and there'll be landscaping plans coming back. I think they're just trying to get the work going, and keeping some of that clear. So I didn't include a lot of that stuff that's in there, but just in case, I do have a few. I had the same thing for our fill, because they will probably need that for obviously like filling in the pool and dealing with that and hauling that out, and some straw wattles. Our normal, no fertilizer, or other agricultural chemicals within the 50-foot buffer zone. And then native species, which I know is kind of policy in the land bank as well. And then I just asked for some photo monitoring of those areas that they're kind of letting renaturalize, knowing that we're going to see this again probably pretty soon. So it's kind of not going too crazy.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Are there any questions, comments, or amendments to this order? Mike?
Thank you, Ashley. Again, just because I'm so new to this, do you ever have to put in that they're going to come back and show you the landscape plans, Jeff? Or I'm really just more, I mean, I still think it's going to be a net improvement to the property. I'm just more interested in how they're going to weave in and out of some of the 25 and the 50s.
No, it's actually a really good idea, Mike. I think him in there. I noticed that additional finding number 2 that I sent you, I meant to delete, but I think maybe we'll replace it with something in just 1 second.
I like that, Mike. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, and sometimes, Mike, just to kind of answer your question, we do put in these orders that a landscape plan needs to come in for either staff approval, you know, showing all native plants, or come back before the commission. So sometimes we do write that into our orders.
Thank you.
I'm gonna let Jeff wordsmith a little bit, but are there any other questions, comments, amendments?
Going to be a fabulous property when they're done.
Yeah. All right. So I hope this catches it. I think this is a really good suggestion. So I put additional finding number 2 and replace the one that shouldn't have been there, that says the commission finds that a final landscape design or plan is not approved by this order, and that the applicant has represented at the meeting that an amendment or separate notice of intent will be filed for the final site design.
Is that me?
Great, thank you, Jeff. And thank you, Mike, for bringing that up.
Yeah, that's a really great suggestion.
So at this point, I don't think we have any other amendments. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve as amended? Mark, are you making that motion? Mike, you seconding?
Yes.
All right, so by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, aye, Golding,
Aye.
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Plendowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously. And that moves us on to Murphy and Foundler. I think I keep getting that one wrong, at 8 Massachusetts Avenue.
Yeah, outside of our standard fill condition, I didn't really have any suggestions for this one. It seemed pretty straightforward.
The only thing, Jeff, and I'm trying to read this quickly, that was mentioned is that they weren't going to use irrigation, fertilizer, etc. on this site. So should we put that in writing, that it does not permit those?
Sure, let's do another finding. We'll do additional finding number 2. So I think you would just have it and just say that additional finding number 2, the commission finds that no irrigation, fertilizer, or other agricultural chemicals are approved by this order.
Thank you, Jeff. So if there aren't any other thoughts, would somebody like to make a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Motion made by Linda. Is there a second? Seconded by Joe. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Golding,
Aye.
Mizzarelli.
Nope, he abstained.
I'm out on this one, right?
All right, already forgot. So Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
All right, so that carries with Commissioner Mizzarelli abstaining, which I somehow forgot about from only like an hour ago. All right, so that moves us on. We have an extension of order request, Fader at 36 Liberty Street.
So I'm going to recuse Ashley because she's my next door neighbor, practically, and a butter.
Okay.
Across the street.
Yeah.
So this was, if you guys remember, this was a order that came during the Brock's Court debacle, where we had some unpermitted work that had going on and some work on a little pond that's there and some resource area. Marcia has been doing all of the maintenance work and cleanup work and things that she was permitted to do. We haven't had any further incidents of non-compliance, and everything has been going well. And as it's just for maintenance and all of that maintenance is still ongoing, she has requested her 3 one-year extensions to continue that maintenance before filing for certificate of compliance to make sure that everything is in proper order, and we are recommending that it can be issued.
So Jeff, just a question on this one, because I was thinking back to this permit. Do we have any requirement to submit like photographs of this maintenance, just because it obviously started with an enforcement? I'm worried continuing the permit without.
We do have some. We've done a few site inspections too that the permit requires. So I think we can definitely make sure that photo monitoring continues.
Okay.
But that's easier to do with an open permit as well.
Yes. All right. Thank you. So if there aren't any other questions, would somebody like to make a motion to issue the 3 one-year extensions?
So moved.
Motion made by Linda. Is there a second? Seconded by Mike. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
So that carries with Commissioner Golding recused. That moves us on to other business. We have approval of minutes from July 28th. Thank you, Terry, as always, for the minutes. Not sure if anybody saw anything that needs to be amended. And if not, would somebody like to make a motion to issue as drafted?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Motion made by Linda. Is there a second? Seconded by Mike. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Golding,
Aye.
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Right, that carries unanimously. Committee appointments, we already did a few weeks
Oh.
ago.
You got
I
this
was
up.
supposed to say reports. Sorry,
That's all right. Reports are kind of down. So we can do reports now if our
Oh,
committee.
no, committee reports. That's what I was supposed. Oh,
Yeah, 'cause
never mind. Wow.
they're both
Sorry
kind of
about
on there. So we can wait, we can do discussion of
wait.
regulatory update. I know we had some dates thrown around.
Yeah, of course I can't get to them right now.
Did we skip, Madam Chair, did we skip the supplemental letter for Pocomo?
So let me explain this really quickly. So
Yeah, that's
This
also
was-
a new agenda for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was sent in. We've never had a request like this before, especially
Yeah.
on a permit that's closed out. So I guess my only update on it for right now is we have inquired to both council and DEP if this is even possible to do. So I apologize for missing the agenda, is we've just asked the applicant and they agreed to carry it forward to the 25th so we can try to figure out how to properly address it if we can at all.
Okay.
No one has even ever heard of this happening before, so it's like a mystery.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for contacting town council about this, because that was my first thought. was they need to advise us.
Yeah, it's a, like I said, we've never seen anything like it before. So,
Well, it's a very complicated situation, and I do worry that with major erosion control projects, we might see more things like this.
yeah, I think getting a good answer to this is going to be a nice piece of information to have in the future. So we're just trying to make sure that we get it correct and we act within our legal authority.
So do we wish to discuss the letter at this point, or?
No, if we could wait till the 25th, that would be great.
So it's moved off of this agenda.
Okay,
The party that filed it is not here, so I think we should hold off to deal with it.
And I think we should have counsel advise us. prior.
are we talking about the letter, Ray, Chapter 91 compliance questions?
Oh, no, that's later
No.
on the agenda.
But I don't have it on my agenda for some reason. That's why I was asking about it.
Well, I left it under administrative report, but we'll talk about that.
Wonderful.
In a minute.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashley.
Yep, no problem. So I am going by the list on the newest agenda because I think they have switched. So next on the list would be discussion of regulatory update. And I know that Jeff sent out dates. Can't remember if it was yesterday or today. Yesterday. To potentially discuss that. So I don't know if people have dates that work. I know I am not available on September 1st, which was one of the ones up there. But I'm just one person.
I somehow missed the dates email. Oh, here it is. Okay, I'm just trying to pull it up right now. Okay.
I'm trying to find them. I know I got that one today.
Well, I'd say if people want, so we're not trying to do it on the fly, if you could just send dates that you can't be there, I can circulate that back around for everybody. And maybe we'll try for as close to that early September date as possible. But I know we had one of those in person. And then while we're on that scheduling, I did mark one of those for the one in later September for the 2021 SPPF annual report, because we did get back from Greg Berman, and with his workload, he has guaranteed delivery of his update by, I believe, I can't get to my email. I think his date was September 18th, is that he guaranteed he'd get it to us by, and that would give everyone a week to kind of look through that before that meeting. But I think that's probably the earliest that we could have that. So,
Could you send out that schedule again, Jeff?
yes, when I have access to my email, I will happily send it out again.
I'm good with, I mean, as far as I can project ahead through September, I'm good with all those dates. So
Yeah, it's the in between Thursdays of our other meetings. So I try to keep it the same, but I wanted to at least find meeting spaces for when we could do this.
I'm not here on the 15th of September, but I don't have the list in front of me.
So I'll read the list out for you. August 18th, September 1st, September 15th, September 29th, and then there's 2 dates in October. Basically, if I go in for my knee surgery, I won't be able to even make it to the toilet practically for the next few weeks, let alone to the trailer. So,
Well,
so that's my deadline.
So the good news with the trailer is, I know this is going to be a super unpopular option, is we can also have you remote in via Zoom, and there's a TV that's in there. So we would be kind of doing a hybrid, but we don't have to we could just have you have access to the Zoom for it.
Sure.
So it'd be like calling in, or we can put you on the phone. So
Sure.
How's the Wi-Fi in the trailer, Jeff?
it's good. It's the regular town Wi-Fi, so
You can't hear a thing in there when that air conditioning is going. You can hear nothing in that room.
hopefully by the end of September, we won't need AC quite as
Well,
much.
then they'll have the heater going, which is just as bad.
So,
Well,
So I vote for, as 1 out of 7, I vote for September 15th.
okay.
As
Because
I
I'd much
said,
rather be there in Pleasant, but,
All right.
and you said you
So-
couldn't be there, Linda?
How about we
No.
just all email Jeff the
Yeah,
dates
all
we
right.
can make or can't make, and then he can kind of sort it out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. Let me know which dates you cannot make, and I will cobble it together.
And if you don't hear from somebody, is it safe to say that date is open?
Yes.
Or
I will assume by not hearing from you that you're available for all of them.
Ian, if you need a ride, I drive a low rider. You'll be fine.
Okay, thank you very much.
Teamwork. I love it. All right. So hopefully we'll get that figured out, whatever date we're going to choose before our next meeting. That moves us on to enforcement actions, potential enforcement actions. Oh, you're muted.
I just had a quick one today, and I just wanted to kind of give a quick shout out. We had a irrigation line on a one of the like Wilkinson arrays that broke on one of the properties today at 121 Eel Point Road, and Morgan, our inspector, caught it, got it called in, and Art had it addressed right away. So it avoided a enforcement issue, and we're working with them to get the little bit of scour that happened cleaned up and get that problem fixed. But it was nice that it was a quick email and call, and everything was underway. So that went well.
And
So
we
it
can't
avoided-
get rid of the house.
So no, so we avoided any problems. So that was good.
Jeff, thank you for bringing that up, because a lot of those projects had temporary irrigation installed, but I feel like the irrigation never gets removed. So is that something we can start checking on?
Yeah, Morgan actively is checking sites for vegetation establishment and whether or not that irrigation is still in or out.
Okay.
So especially now that she's transitioning away from protected species monitoring a little bit, she'll be much more actively checking for those things.
Oh, that's great. She's a fabulous addition to your office.
She's a collector of information.
Yeah. All right. So that moves us on to reports. We have crack,
Nothing to report.
CPC,
Nothing to report.
and NP and EDC is not here. So that moves us on to commissioners' comments. Any commissioners' comments, Linda?
Great meeting as usual, Madam Chair. Can you chair all of my other meetings, please?
If I didn't have to work and do those things, maybe I'd consider it.
So I do have a request to Jeff through you, Ashley,
Yes.
that you send out about the compatible beach sand that
Yes. All right. I will have, again, once my email is back up, I'll have that out. So probably in the morning.
thank you. And forgive me, refresh my memory. We have also addressed, we're reducing the percentage of ground coverage in the 25 to 50 to 25 from 50, right?
I would
That's
say
already in there.
that is part of the active discussion for the regulatory changes.
Okay. All right.
Good questions, Ian. Any other commissioners' comments? Looks like no, so that'll move us on to administrator staff reports.
So the only thing I have for tonight, you guys at the last meeting asked me to put together a letter to Mass DEP Waterways about Chapter 91 compliance, and with some very specific questions about triggers and
Enforcement.
resource area changes. So I sent the draft around. Hopefully everyone got it. If they didn't, I can put it up on the screen. I apologize for being it so late today. But I did. So I'm sure people, and I think Ian already had a question or comment, but I'm happy to throw it out there for some discussion.
Well, I do. May I, Ashley?
Yep, go ahead, Ian.
So thank you, Jeff. I really think it's an excellent first draft. And at the end of the second paragraph, when you say, does the license allow for reconstruction even with the original permit conditions no longer existing? How are these situations addressed? I think that's a very gentle way of not referring specifically to when the properties originally protected by the licensed bulkheads are no longer there. So I wonder if you could add that and say, does the license allow for reconstruction even with the original permit conditions no longer existing, specifically when the properties originally protected by the licensed bulkheads are no longer there? How are these situations addressed? Because I just think, you know, we might as well.
So I think there's an interesting question in that question, Ian, is the requirement for the pre-78 structure is a Wetlands Protection Act question and not within Chapter 91. Chapter 91 is a separate permitting requirement for those structures, but it doesn't have the same requirements that the Wetlands Protection Act does. It's kind of a weird go together. So I think if under Chapter 91, if your structure was gone and you had it and it was licensed, I think they view that a little bit differently, where under the Wetlands Protection Act, I think that's a different question.
So I absolutely take your point, but ... the bulkhead would never have been there if there wasn't a pre-existing structure that requested protection. So, you know, the pre-existing structure is no longer there. So
Let's see if I can, maybe I can wordsmith something quickly here to address
Well,
what I
or
think both of us are saying.
happy to wait till our next meeting, you know, to absolutely, but I don't want them to avoid the issue.
Right, if they're no longer protecting a structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, thank you.
All right, so just a quick change. And again, if people want to make edits and send it, we don't have to finish this tonight. So we'll just say, does the license allow for reconstruction even with the original permit conditions no longer existing? As an example, whether the original structure being protected is no longer present or that the resource areas have changed. How are these situations addressed? Question mark.
How does that sound to you, Ian? Thank you, Jeff.
Or do people want
Yes.
to make edits and send them back? And then I'll
No.
put it together for
No,
next week.
I think that's great, Jeff. You know, I
that's
actually
a
take your
question.
point. Sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I know I feel confident in the letter and the newest amendment. I don't know how other commissioners feel at this point, whether you would rather edit on your own and send it back to Jeff or just approve this now.
I think the addition covers the question that I had with Ian.
Okay. So would somebody like to make a motion authorizing this letter to be sent? Ian, you're making that motion?
I am, and thank you very much, Jeff.
No problem.
Is there a second?
Second,
So Mike beat you with his hand, so I'm gonna give it to Mike. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Golding,
Aye.
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Plendowski,
Hi.
Williams.
aye.
All right, that carries unanimously.
That's it for me.
Awesome. And we have no new information, so we won't be going to executive session tonight. So all we need is a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Sarah, second.
Second.
Seconded by Mike. So by roll vote, Beal,
Aye.
Arisman, I, Golding,
Aye.
Mizzarelli,
Aye.
Plandowski,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Right, that carries unanimously and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you,
And we-
everybody.
And we miss you, Terry.
Yes.
Awesome.
We
Yeah,
hope
thanks,
Terry
everybody.
Feels better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Jeff,
Ice cream
Jeff,
time.
let me know when you want me to sign.
Yep, I can't send out the signature pages right now because my email's still not working, so hopefully in the morning.
All right.
So I'll connect with you tomorrow or after the weekend.